Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Liquis Digital Marketing Podcast. We are in our Wealthy Website series, and today we are talking about product and service page must-haves. Okay, so let's jump into this. One of the most important things that you want to know about your product and service pages is the people viewing these pages are most likely in the research and buying phase. Right? So they came to this page and it's obviously very specific about a service or a product. They a lot of times found it organically, possibly by searching online. They were searching for a product or service and they got to your landing page for your product or service, and now they are researching your product and service. This page is often the page where the conversion happens. So you definitely don't want to underestimate this page. And what a lot of people do wrong on this page is they don't treat it like a full landing page. They assume someone came to this page through their home page, then went to their about page, then went to their testimonials, and then landed on the service page. Well, most of the time, that's not how people are going to get to this page. A lot of times people just land on it because if done properly, this page is optimized for search engines. So if someone's searching for this service or product in their area, if it's local, then your page will show up. So you really want to treat it like a landing page. It's not just about your service and your product. It's really about, we still need to think about like getting the benefits to the customer and think about it as a landing page. So because this is where they're most likely to buy your product or hire you for this service. So let's jump in to what makes your product and service pages the best they can be. So one thing to note before we jump in is one of the main objectives with these pages is not only to get the conversion and to educate them, but we're also looking to build trust and credibility. So in the process of them going through this page, we want to inform them about the services, but we also want to build that trust and we want to build that credibility. We want to show that we are the right choice for them. Okay, so let's look at the elements that make up a good product or service page. What makes a good product or service page first is each product or service should have a page of its own. This will allow you to optimize each service or product for the search engine so that you can optimize them individually. And we'll get into later on in this episode how to optimize your pages or your service and product pages. Knowing that each page should have its own individual page, then on these pages, what we want is a hero section. So that top part of that page, typically it's, usually has a background image, whatever, but it's that kind of like that top section that's below the navigation and above the body content. And this is what we call your hero section. It needs to clearly communicate what the product is and also the benefits to the customer, and then what action you want them to take. Or, like I said earlier, what a lot of people do is they just jump right into like, here's the product, here's what all is included, and that's it. So what we want to do is we want them, when they get to that page, we want them to know that they are in the right place, that they are at the right spot. So it is, what I would typically do is have a headline that would include, what the product is. And this is going to be good for search engines as well, but the name of the product or service, what it is, and then use your subhead, so the heading below that, as a way to communicate the benefits of this service and product. And then below that, your call to action. And I say below, it could be to the side or whatever your layout is, but obviously a headline, subhead, and a call to action. This section should also include an image of the product or service. And then also, or I should say, if you can, and if it makes sense, even better, is an image of someone experiencing the results of the product or service. So there's a couple different ways that you can go with the images when it comes to displaying the results, right? Like you can go in more of the negative space and say, okay, this is how someone feels when they don't have the service. So it's more of the negative emotion. And honestly, that's probably what people feed off of when they are making these decisions, these emotional decisions to buy, is maybe some more of that negative emotion. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to feel that way. However, it's always best to display an image at the top of the emotion you want your customer to feel after receiving, so the happy emotion. And then down below, when you're kind of talking about some of the other things, if you're going into that, then you can kind of show those images where it maybe brings up like that negative emotion, so a picture of someone having the hardship of not having the service, if that makes sense. So anyway, that's kind of the thought process behind what type of image or video to use in that kind of hero section. Obviously, it should relate to the service or product. Moving on, the next section would be the benefits section. So we want to start with like what the product is about, or I say product or service, right? What it's about, but we want to do it in a benefits-driven way. So we want to talk about the product, but by describing the benefits, not the features. So what is it that the customer is going to get out of it? So we want to really focus on the benefits. And if you've been following along in the previous pages and in the series, this isn't new, right? Like the benefits are always what leads our conversation in our website copy. So now we're going to jump into the features. So this is what most people think about when they go to write their product or their service pages. What's included? What do you get? So here's where most people will put in like, what is included with the product or the service. So, that's actually the easiest part to write. One thing to note is when you're making this section is to keep it short, keep it skimmable, use an image or an icon, then a title and description. So a lot of times you'll see that maybe laid out in like a grid or like some columns. But yeah, you want to keep it short and, people skim, right? So we know this. Another way is to use a features table. So you probably have seen this a lot of times where it has on the page a table and maybe some different columns of if there's different levels of your services, like what they get, what's it included. Also, you see this on pricing tables. So maybe you have some different price points of what's included. And you'll have a price with like a list of what's included, for your different tiers if you have tiers. So that's the features. Then the next section that we want to talk about is your social proof. Okay, social proof is basically testimonials or a way of showing that other people have trusted you with the work that you provide. Right? So this can be done with testimonials, written or video, awards or certificates, or brands and companies that you've worked with. So maybe some like logos. So really here we're trying to, continue that building trust and credibility by showing that you've done this work for other people and have provided successful results. And then next, we want to show your work. So in most cases, this is going to make sense, right? So you're going to have something to show, but there might be some cases where it doesn't. So like, for example, like before and afters are always great, or just pictures of, the results, right? A couple examples. If you're doing anything in the diet, weight loss, or fitness, obviously like a before and after is always great. Maybe hard to get, but if you can get them, that's good. Or another example would be a landscaper. If you are doing landscaping, obviously you're going to have some after pictures, and it'd be great if you had some before so you can show the transformation. Anything visual is obvious, right? You're going to have, some visual product or element that you can display or show. There are some that's a little harder. So let's say you're a therapist or a life coach or something like that, where the transformation isn't necessarily a tangible product or something that's visible within a person, on a person. It's actually more internal. So your work might actually be the testimonials, right? So the testimonials of that person's transformation, or maybe it's the case study or how their lives changed or how your service changed their life. So Not in all cases can you just have like this portfolio, right? So sometimes your work might be your testimonial. And then you need to have your call to action. You have to tell people what you want them to do. And this is consistent in all of the pages we've had. You need to have a call to action to tell people what action to take. And it has to be very clear and concise and give them the reason to take that action. Let's move on to how to optimize these types of pages for search engines. All right, so this could be obviously a whole episode of its own, and we will do that. But there's definitely some things that we can talk about here to get the ball rolling and get you starting to think and getting on the right path when creating these pages. Okay, so first off, what you're gonna wanna do is before you start writing the content of these pages, you really wanna think through the keywords and you wanna write them down. So the keywords are what are people going to search when trying to find my product. There's a lot of tools out there you can do. There's Ubersuggest, there is the Google's keyword finder. They're out there. They're easy to find. You wanna have a list of keywords that are relevant to that service that you think people are going to search for. Now, when I say keywords, I don't necessarily mean a word like landscape. I mean keyword phrases. And so you want to have what are people, because people don't go to Google and just search landscaper. They do, but then they get the results, a lot of different results, right? So then they start to define their search a little bit more. So landscapers in your city state, or landscapers near me, or they're going to start searching different types of landscapers or whatever, right? They're going to get a more detailed search. So what is that more detailed search? That's what you want to focus on. So that's when I think phrases, I think of something longer, 3 to 4 words that people are searching for. All right, so think of it that way, not just 1 or 2 words. It's usually 3 to 4. So they're called long tail keywords. Now that you have these keywords, we want to use them throughout the copy in a natural way. It used to be years and years ago, and I don't even know why we need to continue to talk about this, but we do. It used to be where people would just keyword stuff, keyword, and it wouldn't be natural. Well, that doesn't work anymore, so don't even attempt it. You're better off not even worrying about keywords than you are to stuff keywords in unnaturally. Just write how you normally would, but have that list of keywords and think through like, okay, how can I naturally introduce this keyword or parts of these keywords throughout this copy and repeat that and have it sound good and make sense to a human being. So in your body copy, include those. We're kind of working backwards here. Body copy is usually kind of like the last part. We usually start with the top, but so let's start at the top. So the title, this is called the meta description. So when you create a page, a lot of times there's areas where you can put in your title and your meta title and your meta description. So this is what shows up in Google when someone searches. You want to have your keyword phrase in your title and your description. Then on the page content, you want to have what they call heading tags, H1, H2, H3. All right. You want one H1 tag, and you want that H1 tag to have your main keyword phrase in it naturally somehow. Then in your H2, you want to also have your keyword phrases in there or broken up in some way, shape, or form. Now you can have multiple H2 tags, and think of an H1 as like the main topic of your page. H2s are different sections, and then H3 are maybe some subsections within those different sections. That's how you kind of use those H1 tags or those heading tags. And you want to include your keyword phrases or parts of your keyword phrases in those. All right, so let's move on from the keywords, right? Trick is just do it naturally. If you're a local business, you want to make sure to include your NAP. What that is your name, email. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. It's your name, address, phone, right? Okay, so the name of your business, the address, and the phone. When it comes to the NAP, what you would prefer to do if you're already indexed in Google Maps and your address, name, address, and phone number are a specific way, use that specific way on your website. you want them to be as similar as possible. So if you're like 555 North 5th Street and North is spelled out and street is spelled out, then do it that way on your website. You want them to be as consistent as possible. If the phone number you want to make sure the phone number is the same on your website as it is in Google. So that's your NAP. You want it consistency across the board with that. Name, address, phone. Okay. Next is when you're uploading images to these pages, you want to name the file name. You want to put your keywords in the file name and then also in the alt text. And then here is a secret bonus tip, which a lot of people don't do. And it takes a little bit of extra time, but if you take these images before you upload them to your website and then run them through a geocoder, which you can find online, it'll geocode your images. So basically you're giving this image a location, and then you download that image from this geolocator embed thing, and then now you can put that onto your website. This is going to help Google know where this image is at. This is going to help Google. What we're trying to do is tell Google this is where you're located, so you're going to show up in the maps, right? All of these things that we're doing here is going to help you show up in the map section. I think they call that the 3-pack. They do call it the 3-pack. I don't think I know. They call it the 3-pack. And that is when you search something, usually you get a map and the first top 3 results within the map, and then it goes into more organic searches. If you're a local business, you want to try to get into that 3-pack. And you do this by doing these things. And the other tip, which is again another episode, is to make sure that you have a Google My Business listing on Google, which just go ahead and Google yourself and see if you do. And that's Google My Business. So that is the product and service pages. I know that's a lot of information. Hopefully you found this helpful when creating these pages. If you already have these pages created, I recommend going back and looking at them and seeing if you need to tweak them and make them better for conversions. All right, that is a wrap. If you like this video, please like and share and subscribe. If you know someone that could benefit from this, please share it with them. We'll see you in the next episode.